Jingle jingle and happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I'm Jenny and we garden and celebrate here in Baltimore, Maryland, Zone 7. Today I am just going to be putting together a quick cranberry orange bread that we can eat and enjoy during the upcoming Thanksgiving weekend. This is not a cooking channel. I am not a cooking demonstrator, but I just wanted to share with you what's happening around our house here on Thanksgiving weekend. All right, let's get cooking. Okay, so the first thing I need is some butter. I'm gonna make this streusel top. I don't know, do you guys wanna chit chat while I make, or do you want me to just do it and you watch? I don't know. The recipe I'm using is from a website called Sally's Baking Addiction, and it's called Orange Glazed Cranberry Bread. It uses fresh cranberries and orange zest and orange juice in the glaze, but it doesn't have any orange juice in the batter. All right, it calls for 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter cut into cubes for the streusel. So, I don't know about you, but making streusels for me, that's a handheld affair. I've tried using pastry cutters before. I never got the hang of them. So now I just start with chopped up butter and I just use my fingers from there on. I am not much of a cook. In fact, my husband is doing most, I would say all, with a little asterisk, because sometimes I do something. But he's doing all the cooking these days since he retired at the end of this summer. And I am a fan of that for sure. Now, today is Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Today's the day we're making our baked goods. So we'll be making some pies, we'll be making this cranberry orange bread, and I think my husband's gonna be making some focaccia. I'm not putting that on camera. This is his thing. He doesn't need to be, you know, put on display. But what are you doing on your Thanksgiving Wednesday? I know like 2 of my sisters have already celebrated their Thanksgiving. Hi Vicky, hi Susie. Over in Tulsa, they both are already, because of work schedules and so forth, they have moved their Thanksgiving celebrations. And I know a lot of families do that because it accommodates, you know, for whatever reason, if you have to do things on a different day. All right, now I have very buttery fingers. I need to clean them off. All right, 1/4 cup of flour. This is just general all-purpose flour. 1/4 cup. 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar. Teaspoon of cinnamon. It looks like I need to get more cinnamon before the holiday season continues on too much further because I only have that much left. 1/2 teaspoon. All right, so I'm just going to mix this with my hands. This is where I get in with my hands, and I like the way that is. I'm a more tactile person, I guess. So I was saying earlier, I don't really like to cook. It's not my thing. It just is kind of a chore to me, unless it's a special occasion. I love making things in the kitchen for special occasions, holidays, birthdays, things like that. Celebrations, parties, but just general day-to-day cooking, it's not my favorite thing to do. That's why another reason I enjoy the holiday season, because it gives you an excuse to make special things. Like, I wouldn't usually make an orange cranberry nut bread just on any old day of the week, because who needs all the sweets, right? But Thanksgiving, sure, we'll have it around for snacking on, for breakfast, whatever. I'm just rubbing this butter between my fingers and trying to turn it into little small balls of buttery, sugary, floury goodness, streusel. Of course I did wash my hands right before I started. Of course I did. I did not put on an apron, and that was probably a mistake. So if you see me having an apron on in a minute, that's why. All right, I have this pretty much mixed together. It's kind of clumpy still, but it's, you know, pretty well blended. So I'm gonna call that done. That's better. That's a higher likelihood of keeping my sweater clean today. All right, so the streusel is done. Actually, I'm gonna put the streusel into the refrigerator to wait until it's time to go on the loaf, because the colder the butter is, the less likely it will be that it melts down into the batter. So let me just keep this chilled until I need it. Okay, that's done. Now, moving on to the bread. It says put the wet and the dry ingredients in separate bowls. So I have a dry ingredient bowl here. Calls for 2 cups of flour. Do you guys bake with your computer on your countertop and then get flour on it and sugar and all that? I do that all the time. It's probably really bad, but it is what it is. One teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of salt, flour, baking soda, salt together in a medium bowl with the egg and the brown sugar and the granulated sugar together. 1 egg, brown sugar I need a half a cup. And a half a cup of granulated. Whisk that together. All right, what else? All right, now whisk in the buttermilk. Okay, I don't have buttermilk, so it says you can substitute sour cream and whole milk. I don't have whole milk either. I have 2% milk. So what I'm gonna do is just mix sour cream and 2% milk as a buttermilk substitute. It says 2/3 cup milk and 1/3 cup sour cream. A 1/3 cup of vegetable oil, a teaspoon of vanilla, and 2 teaspoons of orange zest. So, of course, I have not yet created my orange zest, so also, I don't have oranges today. I have clementines, and so it's going to be clementine and cranberry bread, not orange and cranberry bread. But to me, clementines are oranges. So, see, I'm just a rebel. Also, this is probably why my baking projects don't always turn out. Now, I do know enough to know that the acid from the buttermilk / sour cream and milk is going to react with the baking soda that's in my dry ingredients, and that is what's going to cause the bread to rise. But because I haven't mixed those together yet, I'm not risking that my chemical reaction will occur while I'm wasting time catching up with my orange zest. So I can mix this together and not worry that it's going to react and then deflate before I finish. I have this microplaner zester, which I love. It looks like it's Farberware brand. I bought it at Target, I'm sure. But it does a great job making lemon zest, orange zest. You could use it for shredding cheese really tiny, etc. Lots of ways to go. So I'm just gonna zest my oranges here, my clementines, until I get 2 teaspoons worth of zest. Now you don't want too much of the white part, that's called the pith, and the white part is bitter, but the skin part is tasty. It's got all that orange oil in it, and that's really what is bringing the flavor to this batter. The oil that's in that zest, but you don't want the bitterness of the pith. So can you see how I'm leaving the white but taking the orange? Just the barest top part of the orange is what is coming out. I don't know if focus is working or not, so we'll see. All right, so I have what I would call probably 1 teaspoon worth in there. All right, I'd say that's another teaspoon. It's probably more than a teaspoon. But you know what? This sort of thing, I say you can't have too much, so. And that goes. Mix that up with my wet ingredients, okay. Okay, now here's where I'm going to actually pause and do my prep work before I mix. It's supposed to go into the dry ingredients, stir it together, and then you fold in your chopped cranberries and your nuts, but I don't have my cranberries chopped yet, and I don't want this mixture to have their chemical reaction in the bowl for too long before I actually get everything finished and into the oven. So I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to rough chop my cranberries and my nuts. Now, I don't always do this, but when I'm chopping nuts for sure, I like to use this tool. This is a nut chopper. It's actually any sort of chopper you can use. You can use this for chopping onions, nuts, carrots, any sort of thing you need into a fine chop. And it's basically you pound down on it, and then these blades come down and chop whatever you've got. I like to use this for nuts because then it keeps them on the cutting board, and I think I'm going to use them for the cranberries also. But because the cranberries have juice and the nuts don't have juice, I'm going to chop the nuts first and then chop the cranberries. And let's see how much of each I need. I need 1 cup of cranberries that I chop up, and then I did a half a cup of chopped pecans. I think this is called a slap chop if you get the brand that they advertise on TV. This particular one is the Pampered Chef brand, and I don't know what they call it in Pampered Chef, but I love it. It's noisy though, and the dog doesn't like it. So you just stuff all of your food under there. Now if you only do a couple of times, it gives you a rough chop. The finer chop you get, and so I think that's perfect. And 1 cup of cranberries. These are fresh cranberries. I'm gonna probably make a little bit of a mess here, so that's why I did the nuts first. Now the recipe calls for fresh or frozen cranberries, and it says that you can use dried cranberries or craisins if you want, but the flavor is a little bit brighter and a little bit fresher if you use fresh. So. Oh, staying on the board. This is why I like to use this chopper, because when I chop this with knives, they roll all around. And that makes quick and easy work of that job. Now this recipe calls for a large loaf pan, a 9x5. I don't have a 9x5 loaf pan. I have 3 4x8 loaf pans. So I'm actually going to use 2 of these pans for this bread. I'm going to split it into 2, and it might turn out I need 3. We're going to find out if I'll be able to fit it into 2 or 3. We'll see. All right, now I've already preheated my oven to 350. I've already made the streusel, and I've made, okay, now I need to mix the wet into the dry. Let's see what it says. Make sure I read it correctly. Whisk the, did that. Pour the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients, then whisk to completely combine. Avoid overmixing, and then fold in the cranberries and nuts. Okay, now I'm going to divide it between these 2 pans. Get my streusel out of the fridge and divide it between the 2 things. Now it has gotten really firm, which is good because it makes it crumblier. And so I'm going to divide this between the 2 pans. You just kind of sprinkle it. Try to break up the big clumps while I'm sprinkling. Unsuccessfully, looks like. It's okay. That's what it is. Okay, we're gonna call that done. And now they go into the oven for 45 minutes to 55 minutes. You need to test it with a toothpick or a cake tester, whatever you got. So, into the oven we go. All right, so I set the timer for 45 minutes. We're gonna come back and see if they're done at that time. If not, we'll let them cook a little bit longer. And then after it cools down a little bit, there's a glaze to put on top as well. Okay, that's clean. I think these are both done. It does look like the streusel did kind of fall down into the batter. So I don't know if I did something wrong with that or who knows. I don't know. As you saw, I'm not a really particular baker, so it's very likely that I did something wrong. Anyway, we're gonna let these cool and then I'll take them out of the pans and put the glaze on them. All right, so the glaze is just 1 cup of powdered sugar and 1 to 2 tablespoons of orange juice. Of course, I'm using clementine juice from the clementines that I zested for the insides. Obviously going to need a little bit more of that juice. Almost spreadable, but not quite. Just a smidge more liquid, I think. I think that's perfect. Now you could just take your spoon and pour it on top of your loaves like that, but I'm actually going to put it into a little baggie and then squeeze it out of a corner, and that way it'll be a little bit more evenly distributed. Now my cakes are still warm and that's why this is soaking in, which is fine. But I think I'm gonna save the rest of this and put it on after everything is cooled off a little bit more. And that way some of it will soak in and some of it will stay on top. Okay, so it made 2 loaves. They didn't really rise very much, so I'm not sure if that's because I didn't use buttermilk or what. But let's cut into one and see how it looks. Looks like it's pretty yummy. Okay, let's taste this. Oh. That is really good. Yeah, that's a winner. Definitely a keeper recipe. I'll put the link to the recipe that I used down in the description box down below in case you want to make it too. Thanks everybody for watching my first, maybe only, cooking video. I'm not sure how many of these I'll be doing, but you know, we are Harmony Hills Home and Garden, not just Harmony Hills Garden. So every once in a while I'll toss in a home-related video into the mix. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll come back and watch more videos to come. Have a wonderful day, friends, and have fun in your kitchen.